In the first two videos on chords, I showed you how to build a chord and demonstrated using the key of C major, and I also showed you all of the chords in the key of G major. In this video, I'm going to extend your knowledge and help you play chords in different inversions. So every chord that you know, and you now know 8 chords, every one of those chords can be played in different ways. So let's just take a simple chord. For example, let's take the D chord. So in the case of our D chord, let's use D major. This one we played in the key of G, and it uses the 3 notes D, F sharp, and A. When we write it like this, we call this root position. And the reason we call it root position is because the note that names the chord, D, is at the bottom of the stack. So when I play it, I'm going to play it with D on the bottom. We call this root position. And my left hand can play D on the bottom, playing it in root position. I can also play the same 3 notes, D, F sharp, and A, but I can play them with D not on the bottom. I can take D from the bottom and move it to the top. So now I'll have D, F sharp, and A. And if I play these here, you can see that the top note is more prominent now, and it's a D. So this is still a D major chord. It's still D, F sharp, and A, but it's not in root position because the note that's on the bottom is not D. When you have this position moved up, we call it first inversion. And so when it's in first inversion, we have F sharp on the bottom, A above it, and D stacked on the top. So we call this first inversion, and you can think about inversion just like you do in English when you have a cup of water. If you invert it, you take the bottom and you move it to the top. So if we were going to move this chord now into second inversion, we would begin looking at the notes in the position from first inversion. Here we took the bottom note and we put it on the top. And to move to second inversion, we are going to take the bottom note and put it on the top. So now we're going to end up with F sharp as our top note. And we're going to keep the other 2 notes underneath and in the same order that they were in for the first inversion. So going through this from root position, we have D, F sharp, and A. Then moving to first inversion, we're going to move D to the top and still keeping F sharp and A exactly where I had them before. And now I'll play them in second inversion. The bottom note is the 5th. So this second inversion, these 3 notes had now got A on the bottom. So root position, first inversion, and second inversion. A good thing to do to practice playing chords is to move them around the piano in different inversions. So a nice exercise you could do with your right hand would be to play the D major chord in all of these different positions. So beginning with root position, you could play root position again in the middle of the piano, up again, and even higher if you've got enough keys. And you can continue finding root position D major chords in various places on the piano. As long as D is on the bottom and you're playing it with F sharp and A, we call that root position. Now let's find the first inversion with F sharp being the bottom note, and let's move it around the piano. It's good to do this a lot because it'll help your hand to find the shape of that chord without thinking too much. And then we can practice playing it in second inversion. And in this case, we've got F sharp on the top with D and A underneath. This one is the biggest reach. And again, find it here, reaching higher, coming back down. And I like to aim my middle finger onto D to help anchor those chords. Something else you can do is practice moving between the inversions. So let's just move between root and first, root and first. I'll do that here. And then I can move between all 3. Root, first inversion, second inversion, back to first inversion, back to root position. You'll find comfortable comfortable fingering for these chords, but you'll notice I'm not using the third finger every time. I'm using it in root position, and I'm using it in second inversion. But when I'm playing in first inversion, I do find it more comfortable to use my second finger because there's not much of a distance here. It's a little squishy and a bit of a stretch if I try to play a third finger during a first inversion triad. So I do use finger 2. You can practice doing these with your left hand as well. And you'll notice that I'm now using my third finger in root position, and also I'm using it in first inversion, but in second inversion I'm using my finger 2. Again, it's just because it's more comfortable. You'll find that for yourself as well. A second finger is comfortable there, but if I try to play a third, it feels like a stretch on this part of my hand, and then there's unnecessary squishing happening in this area. So you could also do this hands together. You could play root position and root position, and then you could play first inversion and first inversion and second inversion and second inversion. You can make up any exercises you want to do this, but I do recommend just learning to play the various chords that you're familiar with in every inversion on the piano until you just can do it without thinking too hard.